Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. Wow, I haven't done that intro in such a long time. I haven't done this type of video in a very long time, and today is a perfect day for it because there's so much happening right now in the news today that we are doing another episode of What the Hell Really Happened. Sorry for... People are going to be mad. Okay, I'm going to try to fix some of my audio issues here. Make it just a little bit... Oh, maybe this is going to be better. Oh, I hope so. We're getting a lot of complaints about audio. I don't know how to fix it. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. But anyway, in this video specifically, we are going to be talking about a number of topics happening in the news right now. Specifically talking about first responders, the latest happening at the G20 with China and North Korea, the latest with the spat between Trump and Jimmy Carter. What the hell did I write here? Oh yeah, the latest on the surveillance states, a major city in the United States stopping 5G, and... aliens. And okay, before we get into that, plus a lot more, I wanted to remind everyone that I will be speaking very soon at the Anarcho Vegas event happening nowhere other than Las Vegas from, of course, July 19th to the 21st. If you are in the area, I would definitely recommend coming out, checking out all these amazing speakers, including myself, to, of course, get the latest information and lowdown about cryptocurrencies and freedoms. Don't forget to use promo code WRC to get 10% off your ticket. Hope to see you in Vegas. Now, there's a lot to get into today. It's a very big news day, but I think the number one story, the most important story to realize and to understand is, of course, something very dear to my heart, something that I've been fighting for years now, and that, of course, is the cause of 9/11 first responders. Heroes, service men and women of this country who came to the country's need after 9/11 to help people, to rescue people, only to have the government come out and knowingly have documents telling them the air was safe to breathe and decide to tell the public, no, the air is safe to breathe, even though those buildings that came down on 9/11 were filled with asbestos, one of many lies told by the government around the events of 9/11. And to add to insult to the suffering, the U.S. government, especially the local governments here in the state of New York, in the city of New York, when our service men and women, firefighters, police officers, military men who had contracts with the city saying, hey, if we get hurt on the job, you guys are going to take care of us, right? Especially our medical bills. Well, those local governments, including the federal governments, have been predominantly denying care, denying their end of the agreement to many first responders, and only because of the fight of many brave individuals who are suffering, like Luis Alvarez, who just 2 weeks ago was in Congress with Jon Stewart fighting for his medical benefits, who were entitled to him by the government that he decided to work for. And today, very sad day, because Mr. Alvarez has passed on because of the medical injuries and his fight with cancer because of that tragic day. And personally, going to many of these individuals' funerals and knowing a lot of personal friends who passed away from the same ailments as Alvarez, seeing a lot of people that were very close to me, as you could see here with the case of Alvarez, be once strong, full, healthy men, be of course subjugated to the worst diseases and be forgotten about by government. This really is a tragedy that no amount of money could fix. Even the money that the government denies a lot of these heroes. Now, in other news of horrible mismanagement of government funds, we are finding out that hackers are striking cities all across the United States. This is a story that we covered a few weeks ago, and now we are finding out that a city in Florida paid close to $500,000 in Bitcoin in ransom after a second cyber attack was crippling the city's infrastructure. This has been a series of events unfolding all across the United States, spanning from Baltimore to Florida, where hackers take over the online infrastructure of local governments and then demand a ransom, or they will delete the records and important data to the infrastructure of a local city unless they are paid in Bitcoin. There are many of these cases happening that are not even publicly talked about. But the most important aspect of this story, which as you could see here when I even search for the word NSA, it is nowhere to be mentioned because these hacks are happening because of tools that were built by the NSA, the National Security Agency, that has developed infrastructure infiltrating technology code software that has been allegedly stolen from them. Yes, the NSA was building and has developed the hacking tools that these alleged hackers are using, which they were supposed to make sure was secure and only used by the NSA. Proving, of course, once again, how governments should never be trusted with ultimate authority, because they will screw that authority up like the NSA did, who are clearly the ones responsible for the series of hacks that are happening all around the country at the peril of many cities, which of course the news organizations aren't even mentioning how the NSA is directly involved here. Now, in yet another story of poor mismanagement of funds, or just corruption, or just idiots with too much power messing it up for everyone else, we of course have news of Boeing. Boeing, of course, is one of the largest corporate welfare recipients from the U.S. government. Well, we are finding out that this big welfare queen itself, Boeing, has actually hired $9 an hour software engineers, outsourcing their work on, of course, the 737 MAX project, which has caused utter havoc to aviation all across the United States and many places around the world, with, of course, culminating to, of course, 2 very deadly crashes because of software problems, which many people are alleging, with new information coming out today that the company was firing experienced engineers, trying, of course, to make more of a killer profit, literally speaking, and replacing them with Indian workers that were being paid $9 an hour to develop the software to use the now doomed Boeing 737 MAX. And now this company that's a part of the U.S. military-industrial complex in a major way, that gets subsidized by the American taxpayer, an expense to the average American on our dime, highlights the importance of not only corporate greed here, but the true problems of government socialistic programs like the corporate welfare that they receive, that at the end of the day screws everyone over. Now, moving our focus to the U.S. president, also specifically on this issue, who has, by the way, many ties to Boeing, that even plans on picking an ex-Boeing executive as the defense secretary. That's pretty much like deciding to make the Hamburglar to be in charge of a McDonald's. Yeah, Trump, by the way, reminds us of what politics is all about, and that's 2 old people just insulting each other, as we have the latest spat between presidents unfolding in the public sphere with what could only be described as high school drama. We have the former U.S. President Jimmy Carter saying recently that Donald Trump only won the 2016 White House race because of, quote, Russian interference, which to him makes him an illegitimate leader, with Donald Trump answering back just recently saying that Jimmy Carter is, quote, a forgotten leader who was terrible for the country and trashed by his own party, after previously calling him a nice man, before adding that he was a terrible president. This is our current state of political discourse. Welcome to Idiocracy 2.0. Now, of course, that was not the only news developing at the G20, as we have the latest developments from the U.S. government that the, quote, trade talks between the United States and China are, quote, back on track, while also announcing that he has eased restrictions on China's biggest telecom provider, Huawei, and deciding to hold off on new tariffs, and signaling that this will be a pause in the hostilities between these two major economic world forces. This move, of course, was met with some criticism, some praise by other individuals, but we will see how this unfolding economic mess that's filled with just a lot of lies and big economic bubbles will somehow figure itself out in the future. And of course, we will be following the story very closely. Donald Trump has also said that he has no problem meeting with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the DMZ zone, saying that he wants to go there tomorrow and, of course, shake his hand. And very interestingly, if you watched the Democratic presidential debates recently, especially if you saw the talking points by Kamala Harris and, of course, other kind of establishment Democrats, we saw North Korea as one of the major pivot points that Donald Trump was criticized on. With, strangely, very many Democrats kind of beating the war drums, as of course we have seen attempts by Donald Trump to ease tensions between North Korea and the United States, which for some reason some of the major hardline Democrats like Kamala Harris are against for some reason. But diplomacy should always be cheered on, especially with the not so peaceful past of the United States, with of course its military-industrial complex. But diplomacy here is something that should be cheered on and not criticized, in my opinion. And the more that there could be an actual resolution, the more chances we have of living in peace and prosperity. Even though the main deal that the U.S. Trump administration wants to get with North Korea was a very similar deal that they had with Iran that they got rid of. But regardless, that's not the only interesting conundrum with, of course, the Trump White House, as because we have also the latest comments by Donald Trump that unironically said, quote, "That's what they call a border," when referring to the DMZ zone, which is filled with 2 million landmines, quoting that nobody goes through, complimenting, of course, the border between South and North Korea. And according to many assessments, Donald Trump will make that journey to the DMZ sometime Sunday, which of course will be an important moment that also we will be covering on this independent media broadcast. And now finally, we get to the alien secret technology part of this show, as of course recently Joe Rogan released a podcast with Bob Lazar, who says is a physicist that worked, of course, surrounding the mysteries of Area 51. And really an incredibly fascinating interview. By the way, I will put this link in the description below so you guys could watch it later. I strongly recommend you do check this out, because a lot of new information, especially even previous information that was released by Bob Lazar, has been correlated even just recently with, of course, the U.S. Navy recently granting a patent on a, quote, theoretical aircraft resembling the recent reported UFOs that could, quote, bend the laws of physics to fly through water, air, and space. Anti-gravity technology that was talked about in great detail by, of course, Bob Lazar on this broadcast. And as soon as I saw this news report, automatically I thought of this podcast, since these latest actions by the U.S. Navy seem to confirm a lot of the assessments made by Bob Lazar. And it is truly fascinating information that is definitely worth a deep dive, but I personally will not speculate here other than just to report on this particular podcast and, of course, this latest U.S. Navy patent. And in other latest news about high-tech stuff that we're not supposed to know anything about, we're also finding out that the Pentagon could now ID you through your heartbeat with lasers. Yes, like we're not tracked, traced, and databased already enough. We have a new report by the MIT Technology Review talking about how the Pentagon literally developed a laser that identifies people from a distance by just their heartbeat alone, which can be unique to an individual. And of course, like Engadget puts it, you can't disguise your heartbeat. And allegedly, under the right conditions, this laser now has a, quote, 95% accuracy to determining whose heartbeat they are tracking. Yep, just more uncomfortable news. With, of course, the technological, inevitable enslavement of the human species by robots. But it's not all gloom and doom, as we're finding out that a major city in the United States has actually blocked the use of 5G cell towers and their deployment over, of course, cancer concerns. No surprise that this is happening in California, specifically in the city of Mill Valley, a small town just located a few miles north of San Francisco, voted and approved to block deployment of 5G wireless towers in the city, of course, because of the fears of health and safety to the community of their residents, which according to some is a major small victory that shows you that we can make a difference if we come together and work together and just inform each other about the bigger concerns and worries we all have to face in the ever-expanding technological future. I wanted to end it on the positive note. I hope I did. I hope you guys appreciate the little news dive that we're doing with all the latest information that hopefully gives you a bigger perspective of what's really happening in this world. If you thought I did that, share this video with your friends and family members, because YouTube definitely won't be putting it in the recommendation box, sometimes in the notification box, sometimes not even in the bell box. It all depends, of course, on you. If we survived, if we sustained, if we provided you a service that was helpful to you, share the love, share the video. And because you guys do, that's why I always try to end every single video by saying, love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.